Salvete, today we are continuing lesson 6 and we're going to talk a little bit more about nouns today. So, as you all remember, of course, a noun is a what? Person, place, or thing. Okay, and we've learned a lot of nouns over the last couple of years, over the last year and then starting this year. And remember the common endings that we've learned. There's 3 really common endings and then some different endings. The 3 common endings we've learned are a ending nouns, we've learned us ending nouns, and we've learned ending nouns. So when you see a word that ends in us, or that is very likely a noun. And then we've also learned third declension, which can have various endings. And what I want to remind you of today is when we memorize a noun, when you're practicing your vocabulary, you want to do both endings. So like discipulus, discipuli. And the reason we memorize it that way is that is the nominative and genitive singular. So we always memorize the nominative and the genitive. And that way we just have that in our mind. And then when we get into tricky third declension nouns, where they can have different endings, then we can have that memorized and understand that better. So just a reminder of the 3 declensions. The first declension is I, right? So I. The second declension masculine is us, e. That's the nominative and the genitive. So us, e, o. That's second declension masculine. And then second declension neuter, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit more today, is e ending. So e, o, that's second declension neuter. And then third declension, remember we call it various is. So it can have various or different endings for nominative, but the genitive is always is. So we say various is. So like pater, patris is a third declension noun. Next, let's talk a little bit more about, again, why we have the different endings that we have for nouns. So remember we have 10 different endings for nouns. We have singular and plural. And for singular and plural, remember the 5 cases that we have are nom, gen, date, ac, habla. So I talked about this a little bit in class last week, but what I want you to maybe think about with nouns and with verbs too. So in Latin we put different endings on words, right? And so you can think about this like little Lego men. So let's think about the stem of a word. So let's put a word up here like femina. Okay? So femina, woman. This is the stem, femin, and then the ending is a. So let's think about the head of the Lego man as the stem. And now let's think about if we want the Lego man to do a different job. So right now, and I found a little Minecraft head for this one. Right now you can see he's a construction worker. He's got an orange construction vest on. And then I really don't know what this one is, but we'll say he's a miner. Okay, he's mining for gold. So we've got a construction worker and a miner. So now we want him to do a different job. We want this little Minecraft man to do a different job. So we're going to take his head off, decapitate him, and put this on the miner. So now he can do a different job. Okay, so that's what we do when we take the stem and we take the ending off of it and we put a different ending on for a noun, then it can do a different job in the sentence. And so we talked last time about all the different jobs that nouns can do in a sentence. And so let's review those for a minute here. So remember the 5 cases are nom, gen, date, Ac, abla. And so nominative case, the job that those nouns do is the subject of the sentence. Genitive case, the job that they do is a possessive. When you have a genitive noun, it has something, it holds something. Dative, the job that these typically do is indirect object. So remember, this isn't the direct object, this isn't what gets acted on. If I say I kick a ball, this is not the ball, but if I say I kick a ball to the moon, maybe the moon is the direct object. So often we use to or for with these. So I kick a ball to the moon is the direct object. Accusative, now this is the direct object. So if I say I kick a ball, the job that the ball is doing is the direct object, it's being kicked. And then finally, we have ablative, and we'll call that a prepositional phrase. We'll say prep phrase for now. So we often use the words by or with. So if we go to the moon with a rocket ship, that's what we would use ablative for. Okay, so we're going to write another silly sentence. We did this a couple weeks ago, I think, but we're going to write a silly sentence to talk about the different jobs that nouns do in a sentence. So the sentence is, the cat kicks the dog's shoe where? To the moon with his paw. Okay, the cat kicks the dog's shoe to the moon with his paw. So hopefully, this is a really silly sentence. Hopefully you can remember this, and then you can use this to remember the different jobs that a noun does. So let's talk about the different jobs. The cat, that's the subject, right? So we would put that in the nominative case. The cat kicks, that's a verb, so we're not going to worry about that. The cat kicks what? The shoe. Okay, that's the direct object. So that would go in the accusative case. Maybe instead of subject here, we should say nominative case. Okay, kicks the direct object, the shoe, that's the accusative case. But whose shoe is it? It's the dog's shoe. So what job is the dog doing? It's just having the shoe. So that's a genitive case. Where is he kicking it to? To the moon. So what's the moon doing? It's just the indirect object. So that is the dative case. Okay, there's moon, dative, and now what? With his paw. So what is the paw? What job is the paw doing? Well, it's doing the kicking, so we might think it's the subject, but the cat is the subject. The cat is just using his paw. And so this is with or by, that's a clue that this is our good old friend abla. Okay, so we have nominative, genitive, there's our dative, there's our accusative, and there's our ablative. So all of these are nouns, right? But they're all doing different jobs in the sentence. And so in Latin, we would put different endings on these words to show all of the different jobs that they're doing. And so again, this is just a little bit more explanation about why we're learning these different endings. If you don't understand all of this right now, that's okay. We'll keep reviewing it. But the main thing for you to get right now is to just memorize the endings and just know there's a reason for this, okay? So now we'll move on to talking about second declension neuter nouns. So what are second declension neuter nouns? Like we talked about at the beginning of the video, these are nouns that end in So let's erase this real quick, our silly sentence. and we will write out the endings for second declension neuter. So, singular, plural, we have nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative. And the second declension neuter endings are e, o, o, and then a, orum, is, is. And you probably already remember the chant that we do for this, right? So let's do that together quick. E, o, hurrah, hurrah. E, o, hurrah, hurrah. E, o, e, o. Second declension neuter, singular. And then the plural, aorum is, hurrah, hurrah. Aorum is, hurrah, hurrah. Aorum is. Second declension neuter, plural. Very good. So those are the endings for second declension neuter. So what are some second declension neuter nouns that we've learned so far this year? A few that I wrote down were, let's see where we can write them. We've got manubrium. Remember that was for the hilt of a sword. We've got pallium for cloak. And then we've got solum for floor. That was one of the first words we learned last year. Or we could also have the word for plot or scheme, which was concilium. So those are some endings, or those are some words that we've learned with endings. So each of those we could decline with all of these different endings. And you'll see on page 71, they show you all the endings, and then they show you somnium, declined with all of the different endings. So on the bottom of page 71, we'll do those three problems together where we try to figure out what ending to put on these words. So we'll leave this chart up here to help us. And the first one is argentum, and we want to put that in the accusative plural. So argentum is obviously the nominative singular, and we want to put that in the accusative and then in the plural. So that's an a ending. So instead of argentum, that becomes argenta. That's that answer. And then next, we want to put argentum in the nominative plural. And I'm just going to leave that here, spoiler alert, because when we look at nominative plural, that's also an a ending. So we also have argenta for that question. And then finally, ferrum, they want to put this in the ablative singular. So ferrum, that ending is the nominative singular ending. They want to put it in ablative singular. So all the way down here to ablative, still in singular, that's o. So that word becomes pharaoh. Pharaoh, not like the ruler of Egypt, is the ablative singular of Pharaoh. And so, if you flip ahead to page 73 and 74, you should now know how to fill out those case endings. Decline arum, and then you can choose whatever ending noun you want on page 74 and decline that as well. And then as you look ahead at the fabula, remember the story this week is Somnia Nabucodonosor de Statua. A big mouthful of a word. So when you look ahead at the fabula before class, you can go through and circle all of the second declension neuter words that you can find. So any word that ends in an you can circle that, and we'll talk about that as we go through the story in class. All right, that is all for that lesson. I hope your studying this week goes really well. and looking forward to seeing you all in class. Vale.